Mahmoud Khalil who has been detained by the Trump administration for over 3 months now, is getting a little bit of relief from the federal courts because today a federal judge overseeing his case ruled that the government cannot detain or deport Khalil for one specific reason. So let's explain the caveats at play here, okay? But before we do, for anyone who missed this story, Khalil was a Columbia University student. He was a green card holder, so a legal resident of the United States. He had no criminal record whatsoever. He was not here illegally. And there is no evidence that he is a terrorist sympathizer. He did make the grave error of taking part in pro-peace, pro-Palestinian demonstrations on Columbia's campus. Yes, I understand that some of those protesters did behave in ways that they could face charges for. He wasn't one of them. At least there hasn't been any evidence presented indicating that he was one of them. So with that in mind, you have the Trump administration that detains him and gets ready to deport him with the argument that under the Alien Enemies Act, and because he's allegedly a terrorist sympathizer, the Secretary of State Marco Rubio can just deport him. Luckily, Khalil challenged this in the courts, and then that brings us to today. So for one, the decision that was made by the federal judge does not take effect until Friday morning, which gives the US government time to appeal the decision. And also keep in mind that the government has argued that Khalil's presence in the United States poses a threat to the country's foreign policy goal of preventing anti-Semitism. There's no goal of our government to prevent racism, sure, you'll have like the government, meaning Congress, passing anti-discrimination laws and stuff like that. But to have the executive branch unilaterally act like this at the behest of the Israeli government, let's just keep it real, that's what this is about, is pretty freaking gross. And that's what frustrates me about this story. That good people exercising their free speech, who haven't done anything wrong, there isn't any evidence of them being terrorist sympathizers, they're being targeted at the behest of a foreign government for deportation. Hey, Israel, what are you gonna do about me? You're gonna deport me? It's just so pathetic. The more they try to silence their critics, the more counterproductive their cause is. It really is. I mean, the more negative attention is directed toward Israel and the crimes that they're committing in Gaza and the West Bank. Anyway, a spokesperson for the Department of Homeland Security has alleged that Khalil has acted to glorify and support terrorists. That's the big claim. Khalil has yet to be accused of a specific crime. He doesn't have a criminal history, and there's no evidence that he supports terrorists. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has argued that a provision of the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1952 allows him to personally, unilaterally determine whether or not Khalil should be able to remain in the United States. However, the federal judge overseeing Khalil's case ruled that Khalil can no longer be detained based on the foreign policy argument that the Trump administration has provided. So the judge is like, no, this is not justification for his detainment, and it's not justification for him being deported. However, New Jersey District Court Judge Michael Farbriaz said his findings have no impact on efforts to remove Khalil for reasons other than the Secretary of State's determination. So if the Trump administration finds some other justification to deport Khalil, they might be able to do so. But the reason that they've given so far makes no sense. And luckily, the judge realized that it makes no sense and cannot be used as justification to deport Khalil. That means the Trump administration, again, could attempt to keep Khalil in detention for other reasons. And I'm sure they're gonna try, we'll see. The Department of Homeland Security, DHS, has said that Khalil failed to accurately complete his application for the green card, and that this could be a reason for permanent resident status being revoked. The judge said that may lead to Khalil being detained again, but that this was unlikely as lawful permanent residents were but that this was unlikely as lawful permanent residents were virtually never detained pending removal for something as small as a form error. And that strongly suggests that this is the Secretary of State's determination that drives the petitioner's ongoing determination or detention, not the other charge against him the judge wrote. So in other words, like the other ridiculous claim about him not filling out his green card form perfectly or completely is not the claim that Marco Rubio really presented front and center, because it's a ridiculous claim, number one. But his justification for targeting Khalil also doesn't make any sense because there's no evidence to it, none at all. We would have seen it by now. Jeez. Now, the Trump administration has also accused Khalil of willingly failing to disclose his membership in several organizations when he applied for permanent residency, allegations that Khalil's lawyers have contested fiercely. Finally, the judge wrote that it was overwhelmingly likely that Khalil would not be detained based solely on those allegations, but it is not clear if he would be released on Friday if the government were to argue that those allegations were, in fact, the reason for his detention. So this disastrous, terrible story, this saga isn't over yet. We're gonna wait and see what happens on Friday. While in detention, Khalil has missed the birth of his firstborn child. And time will tell how the Trump administration responds to the judge's ruling here. I think it would be best for them to just free Khalil and not be dog walked by a foreign government because it's embarrassing. It just is. It makes me sick to my stomach that innocent people are being targeted on US soil at the behest of Israel. Oh, your feelings are hurt because people are drawing attention to the atrocities you're committing in Gaza? You think that the critics are gonna stop because you're targeting people? No, it's just gonna make our voices grow louder. And that's what's gonna happen moving forward. You're not gonna be able to silence people. We're not living in the era of 4 news networks that gatekeep everything. We see what's happening on the ground. We see the videos. We hear the testimony from American doctors who risk their lives to provide aid in Gaza and then come back to the United States and explain what they saw with their own 2 eyes. We know what's happening. So targeting Khalil only draws more attention to Israel's atrocities. But they're too stupid to realize that.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.